Struggle. I'm here with Abraham Weizfeld, and today we want to talk about the Black liberation struggle, the struggle for self-determination in the Donbass region of the Ukraine, and make some connections which seem to be being lost totally in the discourse worldwide around the current NATO-initiated conflict involving Russia currently and the Ukraine military. How you doing otherwise, Phil?
Getting a lot of work done here, like this, both the pandemic, isolation and all that has really sort of gotten me into the habit of writing a lot, thinking a lot. And I was thinking, when this whole conflict broke out there in eastern Ukraine, which is now about halfway liberated, I consider, is a region of, nationalities, minorities. And it was always easy for me to see, national minorities in whatever context, because I come from a national minority, a minority within a minority, because I'm from a refugee family within the Jewish people. And as a minority of the Black nation in the United States, I think was and is, easy for you to see the Donetsk and Lugansk nationalities who are striving for their recognition either as an autonomous territory, as was set out in the 2014 Minsk Agreement, or independence when that fails, and that did fail when the government that took over sort of instigated to a great degree by the Azov, neo-Nazi brigade there. Well, they, had to, stand up for themselves, and they ended up getting occupied militarily, bombarded by the Ukrainian army. And they're still being bombarded by the Ukrainian army. 14,000 have been killed. Not mentioned, because they're minorities. Minorities don't count in the scheme of things. Why? Because of what's called sovereignty. Okay, sovereignty of the Ukrainian nation all of a sudden means, some historic preset frontiers, which are immutable and belong to something called the Ukraine. This is called definition of sovereignty, even though, there was minorities in the Ukraine demanding self-determination, just as Ukraine demanded self-determination from Russia previously, and which was granted, in theory by Lenin in terms of the principle of national self-determination, and which did not come about under Stalin. And that was one of the first debates, in addition to the workers' opposition that took place in the Communist Party at the time. But, it's largely ignored. So now it cannot be ignored.
Right. Like yesterday, there was a shelling of the Donetsk region by the Ukrainian army. There's no outrage. Hey, most people, they're allies of Russia, you can bomb them, But no, I think that this issue of sovereignty is very important because that's why I wanted to have you elaborate on it more fully. I've noticed that, like I said, in private conversations with you and other people, so many of the chicken soup variety of people who call themselves Trotskyists or Marxists, they're really drinking the Kool-Aid of imperialism by opposing the invasion of Ukraine because another nation's armed forces have had to enter the territory to achieve a political situation that was not being achieved otherwise. All of a sudden, the reason for the conflict has to do with NATO and that one nation's sense of security, and Ukraine wanted to enter into a hostile military alliance against Russia. And when you think only in a certain box and don't look at history and what I consider real politics, then you make these errors. And there's so many errors that are being made here. And that's why I was so impressed with your concept of the issue of sovereignty not being thoroughly understood and being debunked. So I want to know if you could share more of those ideas with us, please.
There's a contradiction between sovereignty and self-determination, and both are claimed as part of liberalism. Shows one of the contradictions inside liberalism. They ended up supporting sovereignty, even though it's a feudal concept, because of the national bourgeoisie, which wants to have sovereignty in the state as a protection for its own private interests. And this can only be protected by the state. And the state is modeled on the private interest in a hierarchical fashion, and assumes what's called an eminent domain. This is a term that's used, by the state to take away the territories, like from First Nations or anybody else. And it can actually be used, to nationalize all of the private interests in the country as well. It's a very, all-powerful sort of concept.
Yes, yes, yes.
Interesting. But, the sovereignty is often used, to suppress many nations and many nationalities. Sovereignty also, gives a rationale for imperialism because, one nation's sovereign means they can do what it wants, basically, in its own self-interest, the definition of imperialism. So it's, a concept that has to be attacked and removed, from any constitutional apparatus. And in order to do so, you have to have, a federation. Now, I was imagining how this would and could be done and should be done, in the United States of America, and came across some maps of the Black nation, the real Black nation. And it's very impressive. I'd like to share screen it with you to show you what I'm getting at here. Okay. So the Black nation, United States, is about, well, it says here 14.2% of the population. 47.5 million in 2020. Interesting. So it's been increasing.
Sure has been. Wow.
Okay, so now this is getting substantial. Now, if we look at the population density, the demography, where there's 30% or more of the population of a given state that is of the Black nation, you can see it right there. Okay, and this is the way the United States is divided up into states right now. And so you get the impression that the Black nation, is not a majority anywhere. And so it doesn't count, because it can't get a majority in the elections, and therefore elections are the winner take all, and therefore, endless, submission as a national minority. Okay.
Right.
Now, if we go and look at the demographics, though, percentage of the population of the Black nation that is like 80% or more, 50% to 80%, then you get this cloud of a population of people. This is people. This is not, states. This is the actual people, and you get a different picture entirely. All of a sudden, like there's this big sort of mass. Okay.
And this is 2020, Roger. This is not 1918. This is 2020.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And the numbers have been increasing.
Yeah. Okay, so there's the demographic base. Here, in more block units, we see Black nations all red here. All this red. That's where this territory exists, okay?
It's quite apparent that the myth that there is no Black majority anywhere in the United States, so there's no right to self-determination alone, even based on population, is false.
Yeah.
This is false. And those who say it is false, listeners, stop listening to them. Don't argue with them anymore. Just drop them like it's hot. Ghost, they're wrong. Forget about them.
Yeah.
We have to look at the facts and take our listener analysis to fit the fact, to meet the facts, not the other way around. We take the facts first. We take our analysis. How can our analysis use these facts to promote a struggle for freedom, for liberation, for socialist and communist construction, for federation of people of the world? These are facts. We have every right. We have every right to self-determination. This integration approach we've taken is not working. It's not good. We're not getting. We can't get headway because we have to rely on the dominant population to ally with us to get progress. If we focus on ourselves and then make alliances, we'll have outcomes.
And this is the base of support. This is the base of a people's power. This is the people, not the states. You know, the people who only think of the state, you know, think of the previous, you know, conception, you know, where the national minorities, you know, mean nothing. But if you look at the actual people, well, this is an entirely different picture. This is a base of support.
Look at Alaska. Look at Alaska.
Yes.
Of the majority is native, but the counties and the boroughs are where people look at, oh, we have this borough and that borough. We can't, that's, you know, that's something else. No, look at Alaska. That's an example. And look at the native, the native territories between so-called Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah.
It's big, it's huge, yeah.
It's a big area. So the so-called Navajo Nation.
Yeah, but you know, the federal authority is going to step in here whenever they find anything, you know, of interest.
Right.
And claim eminent domain and say that they can dig and cross over and do whatever they want, you know, like over the territory.
So,
and you know, like everybody else just has to get out of the way. So
well, that's one change we have to make. Now the Weizfeld is showing us that we have to get rid of the idea of sovereignty of states and established entities if we're going to be successful in our fight for self-determination.
Yes, this could be
use those boundaries.
This could be this is the Black Nations People's Autonomous Republic, right here.
Yes.
And right then it is in alliance with the other territories that are autonomous, that are also claiming their autonomy from the central state. Here too, all this is immediately, you know, possible to do. Yeah. Okay, then there's a further one. This is even more interesting. Gives the black part, I think, is the actual territory that should be claimed as frontiers with a certain authority over the other territories here as well, where there's not necessarily majority population.
But it's in our security interest to have that as part of the nation or of the territory.
Yes, associated.
We can claim the same thing.
Yeah.
We can claim the same thing.
All this. Yeah, here it is. You know, this is the legal map. It says US Census Bureau, right? It's legal.
And some people say we can't use the term black belt. It's being used right here. Why can't revolutionary use that term? Yes, we use any term we want.
Yeah.
These other people's whose analysis we may want to be influenced by because they're connected to great thinkers, their analysis is wrong. The great thinkers they follow are good, but the analysis they're claiming is not the analysis.
It's incredible how these great, brilliant thinkers like Chomsky cannot escape, you know, from the nation-state concept, and he still refers to the United States of America as we. We did this, we did that, you know. Like, you know, I'm going to get really sort of, pissed with him one of these days and tell him to. But,
well,
he's,
if we take this to a logical conclusion, if we look at Alaska, we look at Hawaii, we look at all of the colonies, the USVI, Guam, Marshall Islands, all these other territories, they immediately have the right to self-determination. Immediately.
Yeah.
There should not even be any debate, but there is debate. So we have to end the debate.
Oh, yeah. And there's Costa Rica as well.
Puerto Rico, everybody.
Yeah.
Puerto Rico, all these territories, they're not in what they call lower 48. They can take away 48 US states. The entire thing. So this is I think a major advancement that we're trying to make here, showing that we can considering what's going on right now in the world and the confusion, we need some clarity of what is the truth we draw from these facts. And these historical maps are facts. You can't argue with these facts. Yeah. So what kind of truth are we going to draw? And from that truth, then what do we do with the truth once we've established a framework for analyzing facts and coming to truth?
This is what we can do. It's not just a matter of being opposed to what is existing at the present time. We have to know what to do to get rid of what's existing at the present time. When does the left talk about constitutional questions? When does it talk about abolishing the bourgeois state? Never. It's always like taking power in the existing state apparatus. This is the old like Vanguard Party, centralized administration that is just and had duplicated what had preceded it, and eventually that was its fatal flaw. This is what the people's revolution is all about. This is the people and not a state forming itself. We call it civil society in political theory and political philosophy as well. But this is where the base is. This is where the revolution is. And this is, I think, is the new African People's Autonomous Republic, of whatever name it chooses to be. But here it is.
Right. Great.
Okay, so now we've got something to hand out for people to digest, think about.
Yes.
Transform themselves to think about, because this requires a transformation of thought, to get to this.
A major shift in thinking, away from integration and away from accepting the state boundaries and the national boundaries as our framework for thinking.
Yeah, I've experienced, what they call integration. It's not integration, it's assimilation. They expect you to dissolve, pretend that you're not what or who you are, like really, like what do you expect me to do? Deny who I am myself and live with an inferiority complex, for the rest of my life. No, thank you.
No, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah. And I also want to just again reiterate the importance that when the Western press, when the major capitalist countries are quote embracing Ukraine, they are embracing the U.S. narrative of regime change and NATO's right to aggress against another country. And NATO does not have any right to do that, but it's done it. It's done it in parts of the world.
Oh yeah, they just assume that Ukraine is part of NATO.
It's that's what it seems like right now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right. That's what it seems like right now. Yeah, we're assuming that NATO is. Look at this, amazing.
Wow. And this is the dispersion map.
Right.
So no matter where Black nation people live, they would be affiliated with a given territory. They would have rights affiliated with the territory. And the territory would be independent of central control with respect to subterranean rights, pipelines crossing over, all that shit. No way.
Right. Right. We definitely need to. We definitely would benefit from some further analysis and discussion of how to move forward here, because the facts are being established right here, as we even talk about. We're establishing the facts right now.
Yeah. And also I can add, you see here, this is Dr. Cly. He's a Black Canadian scholar who I worked with, and he wrote these books on international law for the right of self-determination for national minorities. It's already encoded there. It's been presented, to some UN committee or other, but it never got, to be adopted as international law. And this is what should be done. The program is right here. In Pursuit of the Right of Self-Determination, the Anti-Social Contract, the Black Book, featuring Haj Malik al-Shabazz, the Black Book, The True Political Philosophy of Malcolm X, The Invisible War, the African-American Anti-Slavery Resistance from the Stono Rebellion through the Seminole Wars. Don't even know about that. There's all this resource, that's available.
Well, we're gonna have to dig into more these writings that we have here, and start determining some tactics and some strategies, because what's happening now puts Barack Obama at the head of Black freedom, and Bob Rocker's only there for Barack Obama and his family. That's about, and the Democratic Party and the capitalist system and U.S. imperialism.
Wow, the Democratic Party is such a warmonger party, it just, takes off just like that, stepping right through the door, it's World War III.
Well, that's what Black revolutionaries and international and freedom fighters have to face, because the Democratic Party is what everyone's going to run back to whenever there's a challenge. They're going to go back to liberalism, assimilation, and the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Possibly the Black church or an organized religion. That's the last like barrier, but mostly in the communities it's going to be the Democratic Party, Barack Obama, support for the states, support for our country, and that has to be valid. That's Black revolutionaries and nationalists don't start from that position.
Yeah. So
that's the context of the national oppression.
Yeah, it's incredible, like how we're expected to support white supremacy on the international level. Really?
We are. Thank you. Again, nobody, and I think that's what makes our dialogue so important, is that we are raising some ideas and some concepts that the supposed opposition, I mean the left opposition, refuses to even consider.
Yeah.
Having said that, I would like to get your assistance, Dr. Weizfeld, in getting hold of some of these documents so we can break them down on our next program or start looking at them within some more context. Right. So I think it would be important for our readers to get some snippets, maybe find some websites where they can go look themselves, and start to expand this dialogue a little bit.
Yeah. Very good.
And I thank you very much for bringing the maps and showing us everything and bringing this analysis to us, connecting it to the people of the Donetsk and the Donbass, who are seeking their independence from the Ukrainian overlords, and see the importance of breaking down borders and sovereignty of Ukrainian authorities to do that.
Yeah.
And because they got the alliance of Russia in this, now everyone is now the West, the imperialists, are upset that Ukrainians' national sovereignty is being violated. Well, that's just the way it goes right now. I hate to say it so flippantly, but sometimes you have to change the paradigm to make some changes.
Yeah. Down with sovereignty, up with national liberation. That's the way.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, we'll talk to you next week, Dr. Weizfeld. Take care. Thank you for being with us.